Hey guys, and welcome back to another Facebook Live. You are getting a special edition this week because we have in-house Mitch Anderson and Kristen Bedwell, who are our Money Talk experts on everything COVID-19. So there's a ton of uncertainty that's surrounding your financial options right now, whether you're a business owner or an individual representative. So we're going to dive into that today, but before we do, we always kick off with something fun just to kind of get the mood settled in. So we always do a Would You Rather. And I've got 4 Would You Rathers this week for Mitch and Kristen before we get started. And they do not know these questions, so I thought these ones were really good. These Googles are really interesting. So, all right. So we'll start with you, Kristen. So, would you rather only be able to use a fork and no spoon for the rest of your life, or a spoon and no fork?
Okay, so that's a really good question. I am actually a fork girl. For whatever reason, I very seldom, unless it is soup, I never use a spoon.
So no need.
Yes,
no cereal for you, no ice cream.
Yep, I'm good with the fork. You can eat ice cream with a fork too. Because when the dishes have been dirty, what do you do?
That's all you got. Yeah, you just got to eat quick.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, what about you, Mitch?
I'm the cereal guy. I need a big spoon. So
okay.
I'm going spoon, if I have to choose.
That reminds me of Adam Sandler in that movie Big Daddy when he had that huge container. Yeah.
I'm that dude.
All right. So spoon and fork. Got it. Next
big
question.
Spoon.
Big spoon. Would you rather have to read aloud every word you read or sing everything you say out loud?
Oh my gosh.
So if you're reading something, you have to say it out loud, or you have to sing everything that you just say in normal conversation?
Yeah, so I would definitely be saying and not singing because I would scare myself.
Yeah,
so saying totally, not singing.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, I'm going to dupe that. I'm a horrible singer, so none of that. Unless I got a band behind me with some backup singers. Maybe.
Drown it out a little bit. Yeah. It's like a voice a mother can love, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so you got to choose food fight all day or water balloon fight all day.
I would say water balloon because people throwing food at me would be really nasty, and I don't think I would like that.
Get pretty science experiment real quick.
Not to mention all the smells together.
Garlic. Yum.
I'm going food.
Food.
So
if you get hungry, you
cake. Yes.
Yeah. Depends on the food we're throwing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Last one, and then we'll jump in. Would you rather teleport to a different place on Earth every time you coughed, or randomly time travel plus or minus 20 years when you sneeze?
Oh my gosh. So say that one more time.
Right. Every time you cough, you would teleport to a different place on Earth, or every time you sneeze, you time travel either in the future 20 years or in the past 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
Plus or minus.
Well, I would say I'm going to go with the cough just because I'm a big sneezer. I sneeze constantly, so I would be jumping around 20 years all the time, and that could get really confusing. So
You're definitely not getting a lot done.
I'm going to go with the cough because then I get to go to different places.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So.
I'm a time travel guy. Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies, all that fun stuff. So
okay.
Good time travel.
If you can just go ahead 20 years so that we can figure out what we should bring in
Yes.
that would be fantastic.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
If you just let me know from a product development standpoint.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, so we're going to jump right in. So like I said, I've got Mitch and Kristen here with us, and they are our in-house authorities for all financial aspects of the business. So they are 2 of the smartest people that I have ever met, and what I love about communicating with them on stuff like this is they're really, really amazing at breaking things down in normal people speak for some of us who maybe don't have a CPA background or hover in the day-to-day grind of the numbers. These guys do a really amazing job of explaining things in a way that we can all wrap our brains around. So to get kick-started, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves if that's okay, and then we'll jump into some of the questions that we have already gotten from some of you guys out there that are just curious about, what is the best option for me.
All right, so no pressure or anything. So I'm Kristen Bedwell, and I'm the VP of Finance here at Gold Bond. I have been with Gold Bond now for 14 years. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting and an MBA. And then recently this year I got a CTP certification, which is Certified Treasury Professional. So that's really that person that deals with cash, which is,
That's a
great
big deal.
for this topic.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. All right. Then
So, Mitch Anderson, I am the Executive Vice President and a co-owner here at Gold Bond, and I've been doing public accounting for 30 years, so I've got a couple of different personalities. I've got the public accounting plus the private business owner thing, so.
And he's definitely a salesperson. Don't let him fool you. He loves getting in the middle of the deal.
I love going with this guy. She's super smart. She makes
That's
me
so
laugh.
true.
He's a chameleon, most definitely. So, all right, cool. Well, thank you guys for the introduction. So I'm going to kick it off and jump right in. We're going to do this interview style for you guys. So if you have any questions that we have not gotten to, please drop them in. And then if we're still going, we'll attempt to address. If not, we'll get back to you later. Okay, so first question. Can you just please explain what is an SBA or EIDL loan? What is that exactly?
Okay, so the EIDL loan, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, is a loan program that was put out by the SBA, Small Business Administration, and has been around for years and years and years. Typically, an EIDL loan would be for a natural disaster, at least historically. Like a tornado comes through or a hurricane, think Hurricane Katrina, they'll set a designated area to be able to apply for these EIDL loans in relationship to that disaster. So because the coronavirus has been so widespread, throughout and is affecting so many businesses throughout the United States, the government expanded the EIDL loan program to cover all 50 states. Okay, so now it's the coronavirus itself is considered a disaster. Okay, which I think we can all, as business owners and businesses, we definitely can sense that it's a disaster for all of us.
Right.
Yeah. So the EIDL loan is a loan that is made up to for a maximum loan amount of $2 million. It has a 30-year term, which is great, so that gives you longer time to pay it back. The interesting thing about it right now is they actually, with this current legislation, there's an emergency portion of the loan, which is up to $10,000, that you can, as soon as you put in your EIDL loan application, you can get that $10,000 up to that $10,000 within 3 days. So that was kind of a cool feature, and that $10,000 does not have to be repaid. So.
And that loan is a simple, the application process is very simple.
Very
You go
simple.
online and do it and check a box. And,
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's done directly through the Small Business Administration.
Yeah. I think the $10,000 is really nice just because it seemed like everything happened obviously overnight. So
Yeah.
that fast cash, even though you get 30 years on the bulk balance, the fast cash can really help you with some bandwidth temporarily until you get your ducks in a row on some other things.
Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Okay, so what about a PPP loan? 3 Ps. So what is that exactly? How does that work?
So it's the Paycheck Protection Loan is what PPP is, stands for. It was created by the CARES Act, and again, so many acronyms. The government loves the acronyms. That is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And yes, I had to write that down because there's no way I was going to remember that. The PPP loan is really a cool program, and it's not something we've ever seen anything quite like it, in the United States before. So what the government did is they said, okay, we want to keep people employed, right? So we're going to put aside this money, and these billions of dollars. What is it,
It's $349 billion.
349 billion. So that's a lot of money, right? So they set that aside specifically for this program. And the big difference with it is it can be up to $10 million, so obviously a lot more money. But the way it's calculated is really unusual because, like I said, it's really meant to give you 8 weeks of payroll benefits for your employees. So how you calculate it is you figure what your 12-month, and it can be based on a 12-month rolling payroll or a 2019 payroll, and you're going to divide that by 12 and multiply it by 2.5. So if your average payroll is $100,000, then you can apply for a loan for $250,000. Right, so it just really depends on what that average payroll was. So the calculation is really different, and the intent is different. An EIDL loan, your intent is more for a 6-month, runway. Your EIDL or your PPP loan is really more of looking at that 2 months and keeping people employed for what they felt like was going to be a 2-month time span. Waiting for us to flatten that curve.
Yeah.
So also the PPP loan also is going to have a grant provision on it too. Now, the grant provision is a little complicated because right now the calculation of how much will be a grant is a complicated calculation, and it's one that's going to change. This is a very fluid loan right now because it's new. And they're trying to get money in people's hands as quick as they can, so they haven't figured everything out yet.
Yeah.
But it will have a grant, potentially as much as the entire loan, if you keep all of your people employed and you keep all of their wages exactly, where they are, you could get the entire, PPP loan converted into a grant. Or it's going to be a percentage of that if you have had to lay people off or you have done payroll reductions. But like I said, the calculation is really complicated right now, and it's not fully determined.
Yeah. So the PPP is strictly for payroll, but the EIDL, that cash can be used however you see fit.
Yes, for whatever type of operating expenses you have. There are a couple of caveats on the EIDL. You cannot use it to refinance debt. Okay, so like if you can't go and get the EIDL loan to refinance a loan you've already got, right?
Gotcha.
It's meant to pay for operating expenses, and that's the big caveat. Both of these programs, and I know this is not going to apply to any of our watchers, cannot be used. If you have any type of criminal background, or you're, in any kind of, sex related, industry, or a drug dealer.
This does not apply to you.
This will not work for you. But I know that our watchers, this is not going to apply to them.
Okay, so that explains a little bit of the difference between the two. Are you only eligible for one or the other?
No, and that's a very good question. You can actually apply for both of these loans, which is super important. The big thing that you have to watch for is you can only use the funds for, so like if you get the PPP loan, you literally are going to attest that you are going to use that money for payroll, for employee benefits. You can use a portion, up to 25% of the loan value for rent, utilities, mortgage interest, those types of things. But you literally are going to sign and attest that you're going to use that money for those purposes. Yeah. So you think about that, well, that leaves a lot of, payables related expenses and operating expenses out there that are not covered by the PPP loan. Yeah. So, when you're, analyzing what your need is, you can say, okay, this is going to help me for this 8-week period, cover my payroll, but, I may have 6 months worth of expenses that I need to be concerned about. So, so provided you're using the funds for two different things, not using it for the same thing, you can get both loans.
So this could be helpful for some of our distributors that may be watching that have their own screen printing and embroidery operations, or maybe they do their own fulfilling and warehousing. This could apply to them, not just for the payroll aspects, but for all the operating expenses associated. Yep. It's just your runway and your bandwidth, I suppose.
Yes.
And so when you say that you attest to this and you sign in blood, are they going to come back around and follow up to ask you, show me your pay stubs and all that?
Yeah, so, they are going to have the right to come back and have you, provide proof of how you've used these funds. Now, again, with with both of these loans, we don't know what that looks like yet and what they're going to request.
Yeah.
But they definitely could ask for proof that you used it in the manner that you said you were going to.
Gotcha.
So right now, like I said, you're signing, you're initialing that this is what you're going to use this for.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned that depending on which way you apply, your funds could be immediate or it could take some time outside of you getting your documentation together. There's still a process associated for the government to release those funds.
Yes. Yeah. The EIDL loan is done still, like I said, through the SBA. So you're literally going to go to the SBA site and you're going to apply for it there. The big difference with the PPP loan is because they knew it was going to be so widespread, they knew that the SBA was not going to be able to administer and to run that program through the SBA site. So what they did is they, employed all, or they, have, partnered with all of the, banks, credit unions to give these loans out. So when the loan is actually given out, it's going to be given by the bank that you go to. So you're going to go to the, specifically for the PPP loan, you're going to go to your bank, you're going to have that conversation with your bank, and that loan will be between you and the bank. Now, that's why it has taken some time here to get this program going, and to get, loans approved, because the banks had to determine what documentation they wanted. So the SBA has their application, and then there's the bank's application.
Got it.
And then once you get a loan funding number, which you should typically get, within a week, then you're going to have some additional closing documents that you've got to sign. One thing too that's also interesting about both of these loans is there's no fees. So there's no fee. You're not charged. Typically when you go and get a loan, you have closing fees. You won't have closing fees for either one of those loans. Those are paid by the SBA. So that's a nice feature as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there's a layer of documents for SBA and then a layer of documents depending on your bank, right? So can you just walk us through what some of those document needs might be, so that if there's a business owner or an independent rep out there that's doing their own thing, like, hey, here's some of the things that you need to start gathering together if you want to pursue one of these options?
Yeah, so all of your tax filings, like 940s, 941s, because what you're really trying to prove is what your payroll is, right? Especially for the PPP loan. You're trying to document, improve your payroll. So if you use a payroll processor files, your payroll files from your accounting system, your tax documents, 941s, 940s, all of these can go to substantiate your payroll amount, because that loan is completely based on payroll. For the EIDL loan, they're going to require documentation as well. It's really going to depend on what you're trying to get a loan for. The EIDL loan is a little different too. The PPP has no personal guarantee and no collateral required for those loans. That's huge, right? The EIDL loan, there is a personal guarantee required if your loan is over $200,000, and if the loan is over $25,000, they're going to request collateral. Collateral can be in the form of business property, personal property. It can take a lot of different forms, but there will be a collateral requirement for those. So you're going to have that kind of documentation too. You may have to have appraisals. It's really just going to depend on the amount of loan that you're requesting, and to determine what kind of documents they're going to request from you. So that loan typically takes about 21 days due to additional requirements from a paperwork standpoint.
And one thing I'll add to that, I was talking to a CPA friend of mine, and he was working on a lot of independents tax returns, so it's important to get those filed. I know we've got an extension on that right now, but for that reason, you want to go ahead and get that done if you're independent, sole proprietor type worker.
Yeah.
Okay. So for all you individual sales reps out there, that would apply to you.
That would apply to you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things, especially for the EIDL loan, that they're going to look at is tax returns.
Yeah. Okay. So if I am one of the many distributors out there, and let's just say I have my own distributorship, I have 25 or less employees, if I pursue one, the other, or both of these options, how does that affect my employees? What benefits does that provide as a business owner to those people?
It's huge. This PPP loan, its sole purpose is to keep your employees employed at the same rate that they were before this happened. So for them, and to provide, health benefits, that's part of the PPP loan is health benefits as well. Obviously, so keeping, you're helping them by keeping them employed and providing their benefits and keeping their rates the same, where you may have had to lay them off or cut their pay or whatever situation. But then also too, you think about just the keeping your business viable and open is a big deal, so that you can provide future benefit to them. So and that's really what it's all about is us as a country keeping businesses going so that so that they have a future.
So we've seen some distributorships that have been able to obtain these loans already, and even though the volume is very sporadic and roller coaster like right now, they are taking the time, because they are getting paid the payroll, to implement great process improvement opportunities or put together a revised game plan for the 2020 year or even the 2021 year of how they're going to go out and pursue new clients, better clients, or position different types of opportunities based off of what will probably be new normalcy when we get back to a place of normalcy, right? So, for instance, pivoting right now to only cater to essential type businesses because you know that they're still up and running, operating despite any shutdowns and still maybe have a need. But then come 2021, when all businesses are likely up and running and reestablished, that you will get a kind of like a game plan together for, okay, work from home is going to be something that more people may want as an option, a benefit, right, as an employer, or face masks, going into crowded arenas or stadiums. They may still want those because there's a laced layer of uncertainty because we just don't know. It's hidden, right? It's a hidden virus. So if you guys aren't doing anything like that, it might be a great suggestion to get some things going. You can start sharing some good mind space, right, for ideas and new ways of operating as things adapt quickly in the economy. So, okay. So, all right, I got a couple more questions here. How can I tell whether a PPP loan or an EIDL loan are right for me as a business owner? I think you kind of already talked about that one. Do you want to add anything?
Well, I mean, the biggest, like I said, you really have to think about this not just while we're closed. Obviously we are all trying to stay afloat while businesses are closed, especially in this industry, which depends on every other business being open. But also think about, what that's going to look like, because, that demand is not going to instantaneously come back when people go back to work. Mm-hmm. It is going to take time for the demand in this industry because we are going to lag. As everybody goes back to work, it's going to lag. This industry is going to lag behind as far as our demand coming back. So really think about where you need to be. Like, what is your, immediate plan? Obviously, the next 2 months. What is your 6-month plan? What is your 12-month plan? And really think about your needs and your cash needs. And assessing what you currently have, versus what these programs can offer you when planning, what your next steps are.
And what I've seen out there too, obviously there's a tremendous amount of partnerships and helps. I mean, our banking relationships, your CPAs, all that have a lot of information on this, and they're doing a lot of pro bono work on it as well. So I've been contacted by a lot of folks, investment bankers, whatever your relationships are out there, there's a lot of folks willing to help. So do something is make sure you take advantage of this.
And pro bono, I mean, that's
a rarity, right?
Yeah.
When you get an attorney reach out and say, oh, by the way, I'm not charging you for this. Here's some free advice. Here's some things to think about.
Yeah. At least to help you get your documents in order, if nothing else, so that you can apply.
Yep.
Okay, so last question. We've hovered around the small business owner primarily in this conversation, but we did touch a little bit on the employee or the individual sales rep. Right. If you are an employee or just an individual sales rep, what would be kind of your suggestion of options that are on the table?
Well, obviously, as an employee, if you have gotten, you have been laid off, I know there's been a lot of uncertainty and wait. People are like, oh, when is this new $600 going to come? So basically, what's happened? So, the CARES Act gave the $600, per week additional unemployment that runs from March 29th through July 31st, right? So during that period, if you are unemployed, you can get an additional $600 a week. On top of your normal state benefits, right? Well, all that money to do that program was given to the states, to administer. Well, they weren't set up to administer that, instantaneously. Yeah. So it's taken them some time to get their function in place so that they can get that money out. But if you are already on unemployment, you will get it. So if you were laid off, on the 29th or whatever. So if you've already been unemployed, you are going to get that money. It's taking a little bit of time for the states to get it out there. Yeah. So everybody be patient about that. So that's really put in place to help those that were in a layoff situation. The additional piece that is really cool about that program is they expanded that benefit to cover people who would be traditionally 1099. So let's say that you're a contractor that does sets up art for people on the side. So you're an independent contractor, right? you can also apply for unemployment benefits. So and that's something that's never happened before. But they, the government recognized that there were going to be a lot of 1099 type employees out there that they just have no business now because everybody's shut down. So that's the same as a layoff, right?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So they expanded that benefit. So if you're in that position, you are a 1099 type employee, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to your state and have that conversation, because that is part of that legislation as well. As a sole proprietor, you do have options as well with the PPP and the EIDL loan. Reach out to your resources, just like Mitch was saying. Talk to your partners, your bank. Talk to your accountant. Talk to your attorney. Talk to your resources, because there is funding out there available for you too through those loans.
Yeah, it's not too late.
It's not too late.
We're still on the forefront. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys. I really, really appreciate you breaking it down. All these acronyms. You're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what any of these mean, right? And which ones apply to me. So I'm very grateful for you sharing with the viewers a little bit of insight. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions that you would like us to address, just pop them in, and then we will get to them later on. But I think we've definitely gone over our time limit, which is okay, because this was important information for you guys to know. So we're going to try to wrap it up here. But any last words for you guys? And
I think just one thing I'd like to close with, as a business owner, and you touched on it, it's a time to really think about best practice, process improvement. Being the best, you should be down to, if you have layoffs, you should be down to the core, the people that really care about doing those type things. So you touched on it. It's a time for creativity and ideation, along with best practices. So I would just encourage everyone to do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And plan, everyone. Plan. Think about your future. Think about where this is going to turn out. This is going to be a new norm for all of us. We're going to be all more cognizant of these potential disasters and planning ahead of time for them. But really think about, like I said, don't just think about what's going on right now while we're closed, but think about 6 months and 12 months down the road.
Yeah.
And where you need to be.
Yeah, I think that was a good takeaway, a 2-month, 6-month, 12-month plan.
Yeah.
And how do you adjust on the fly if you need to. So, all right, guys, that is it for this Facebook Live this week. And we hope that you have an amazing weekend. And we will be back next week to teach you more. But have a good one.